Danny Bader is a best-selling author and keynote speaker whose life was changed forever when he and his friend were electrocuted and died. Only Danny came back to life. Following this transformative event, Danny dedicated himself to sharing his story and the profound lessons he learned from his near-death experience. We're happy to have him join us to talk more about his book, Back to Life. Danny, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Amazing story. So tell us, why did you write the book?
Well, I wrote the book really for two reasons. Number one, the journey back from coming back to life, I learned an awful lot and I grew an awful lot. And I thought, you know, we as people learn from other people's struggles. So I thought, let me write some of the things that I picked up through that. That was the first reason. And I struggled with that for a little bit writing it. And the second reason was I met this random young woman on a flight. I never saw her again afterwards. I told her my story and she looked at me, Sasha, with such conviction. And she said, you got to write this book. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I do. So that was the good kick in the butt that I needed.
That sometimes is those strangers that give us that little nudge. So,
Yes.
Well, take us through some of the principles from your book.
You know, I think there's three very powerful principles that helped me move through that struggle. Number one is you have to have a vision. You've got to imagine seeing the other side. And once I did that, I was floundering in that despair, once I saw the other side and thought, man, what's it going to look like when I get better? Then I started to move towards that. You've also got to hold useful thoughts. Two questions you ask yourself: what's happening in your life? What do you see? And then what are you saying about what you're seeing? Our life is lived between the ears. So the power and the growth comes from your answer to the second question. And then the third thing is there's a fourth energy in all of us. You have your heart, brain, and lungs, and then there's the spirit. And I know it because it left my body and then it came back. And when we connect with that as people, that wants only what's good for us. So in the organizations, you know, when I speak with people a lot of times, I'll offer them those principles, and I'll encourage them to start to practice them more if they don't.
Danny, so you do speak to a lot of organizations. How does your message support people?
Yes, I do organizations and conferences. And the message is really this. I think in organizations where there's a challenge of turnover and culture and burnout and these things, I, from my heart, really challenge folks in organizations. Do they have more work to do on themselves, which really comes back to a lot of the principles. I didn't invent these principles. They've been around forever, and they're quite powerful. So rather than play the victim, I think, can you do more things to enhance your resilience and your fulfillment in life? Because then you show up better at work.
Absolutely.
I think that's the key.
Yeah, I cannot agree more. I just came back from a spiritual retreat, so I cannot agree more with
Yes.
you. Well, it sounds like your story should be a movie.
Well, we actually have a screenplay. My son Joey our son Joey and I wrote it, so yeah.
Love that. Okay.
We'll
well,
keep
Danny,
shopping it.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.